Okay, so here we go. I'm going to talk to somebody here. We talked to David Allward, then we're going to talk to another person. How you making out?
Ah, not too bad. Comment ça va, toi?
Ça va bien. You are...
Brian Gallant?
The leader...
Leader of the Liberal Party and leader of the official opposition.
Official opposition, yeah. That's right, they came a long way. Okay, so I talked to the Premier about Shale Gas, and we're going to talk about Shale Gas. We're going to talk for half an hour. We're going to see a lot of people are curious where you stand, and we're going to try to get some answers. Number one, okay, so you is a little bit different. We could speak in French, but the majority of my blog, they're all English. So
sure.
If we speak French and English, then we'll spend... Oh, I already wasted 1 minute. Okay, so we'll spend too much time. Okay, so you were first elected leader, then you were elected MLA, right?
That's right.
Okay, so you were elected leader when?
October 28th, 2012, if I'm not mistaken, and then we had the election for Kent, the by-election in April of 2013. So I swore in at the end of April as leader of the opposition.
And that was you were elected in Kent County.
That's right.
And
in the riding of Kent, right.
That's where the action was. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so when was the first time you hear about Shale Gas?
I don't know if I could tell you the exact time. One thing I can say in the political spectrum, I was asked during the leadership race, and even in an informal way. And what I mean by that is the leadership race was officially launched, and I officially launched my candidacy on January 25th of 2012. But as many people would know, I was definitely crisscrossing the province for many months before that. So I wasn't officially a candidate at that time. I hadn't submitted my papers to the NBLA. So I was asked about fracking and shale gas at that time. Several times actually, so there's no doubt that well, people had questions and people had concerns and people had preoccupations that I think are very legitimate.
But what?
People were wondering, especially back then, I mean we're talking about 2011, when I probably in the political spectrum first was really asked about shale gas and fracking. I think people are concerned about the risks that it can pose to our water, and they were concerned about the risks
a lot of people?
Yeah, I mean definitely during my travels it's a subject that would come up fairly often. I'll tell you there are other subjects, as I'm sure you can know, the economy and lack of jobs in the province is obviously one that comes up often. So, so yeah, I mean I was asked many times, and I reiterated my position as a potential leadership candidate in that time when it was in 2011, that I was proposing a moratorium on fracking. As you would know as well, the Liberal caucus, so Victor Boudreau was the interim leader of the Liberal Party and leader of the opposition at the time, and they took a position of a moratorium. So what does that mean?
Well. Okay, we got 26 minutes left. What do... That's what I did with the Premier, minute by minute. How... Okay, moratorium. Now, what does that mean?
Well, I think the best way, kind of in layman's terms, is to say it's a press pause. It's press pause, let's take our time here. And I think it's a position that I've heard many people take across the province, many people that have questions regarding the risk to our environment and
water. We're talking about you here.
Yeah,
so,
basically what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to explain what other people's view of what that position is.
But if you're elected leader, you're elected Premier, September, when does this goes into effect? Press pause.
Right. So I think what we're trying to do is play our role as opposition as well. So we're obviously trying to tell the government for a while now that because of the legitimate concerns that New Brunswickers have, because of the legitimate concerns that we have as well, we think we should press pause. Unfortunately, we've seen the Premier go full steam ahead without, I think, doing a lot of things he would have to do. He doesn't have a social license.
No, we're not talking about the Premier. We're talking about you. Sure. When will you press pause? You're elected Premier in September. Sure. When will that take effect?
Sure. Well, I think I think we have to be careful with hypotheticals, but I will talk about what our position is. So our position is a moratorium. If I were Premier, we would put a moratorium on fracking. And then the next question I'm sure will be how long does that last?
Yes.
So for us, it's information, and I understand why people would want a firm date. I get it. But at the same time, we believe in sound evidence-based policy making, and that's based on information. There's new information that's coming, some that say that it could be done safely, and some that say that there are real problems. So as we gather all this information...
But did you get the information yet?
Oh, absolutely. I've read... I like to say that I'm probably one of the people in New Brunswick that has read the most on shale gas and fracking. There are many reports that have been done in North America and across the world. I've read European reports, I've read UK reports, I've read reports coming from Canada and the US as well. So I'm trying to be very informed on...
So are you informed now? Are you educated now?
I think so, yeah.
So what's your stand?
A moratorium.
Moratorium. So when would that take effect? Would you have to go more studies, or would you...
No, it'd be right away, yeah.
Right away?
Yeah.
So we know, 24 minutes, we know that Sean Graham, the Liberals, is the one that started Shale Gas, right?
Well, I started as a...
The one who invited the companies inside here, right?
I understand what you're trying to get at.
No, but they the one that started this, right?
Well, started is, I don't think they're the ones that invented shale gas.
No. Hey, that's right. Oh, I have to be politically correct when I'm doing this. Okay, I gotta go back to journalism school. Okay, they invited SWN.
They signed some leases.
Exactly. Thank you. Now, do you know what the penalty is to break the contract?
Well, this is something we're going to have to look at. I mean, one of the things that I want to make very clear, though, is that the Liberal Party under previous leaders is a different party. I'm not here to take any of the credit of past Liberal governments or the past Liberal leaders, and I'm certainly not here to take some of the blame. I'll take responsibility for what I believe in and for what I do, of course. And I want to talk about how we can better our party and how we can better our province. So I think this whole concept of trying to say that because Liberal parties did things in the past, I mean, it's the same thing. We wouldn't try to put anything on Conservatives that were done by previous premiers that would have been...
No, but do you know what the penalty is?
I don't know the exact numbers.
Don't know? Like, is it $500 million? You want to know if it's maybe they put a clause in there that it costs too much money to bail out? Do you want to know that?
Right. I'll certainly get the figures if you want.
Can you? That'll be very good.
Just so you know, we've done some requests for informations and some of that stuff, and we haven't gotten everything that we'd like to get back. So. Okay,
so you always say you're pretty saying that you're waiting for 2 studies?
Well, not really. I understand what you're trying to say, but let me clarify what that is. I mean, the Conservatives, unfortunately, consistently spend their time trying to misrepresent our position. Our moratorium isn't attached to 2 studies. Our moratorium is attached to more information. And one of the things that we keep saying is that there's more information coming. I mean, there's a lot of reports that have been done, as you know. There's just one recently that came out from Quebec. There's others that are slated to come out from Nova Scotia and other jurisdictions across the world. Another thing that I say, and I've been saying this since 2011, going back to one of your first questions, is that there's an EPA study that's being done, Environmental Protection Agency, and Environment Canada as well is doing a study. So I keep telling people, look, the point I was trying to make is that we can press pause, and because we want more information is coming. And those are 2 reports that I think are very credible. They're institutions that are renowned on the international scale for environmental protection.
Is that the government?
Well, the Environment Canada one, really, it was issued and asked by the Conservative minister, the federal Conservative minister, and Environment Canada asked an organization to take it over and do a study. And EPA was asked by the U.S. Congress, so they're independent bodies. So
independent, but you're waiting for that too? That's one of your studies?
Well, again, I just, the sentence you're using, I mean, to say I'm waiting for those studies is not really accurate. We're waiting for information, and what I'm saying is that there's these studies that are coming out. Now, one of the things that I'll maybe preempt some of your questions already. I mean, one of the things that we have to realize is I don't know what's going to be in the studies. Everybody wants me to comment on the studies without seeing. So
you're just waiting for the studies and see if it's going to take a yes and no approach, and just waiting for that.
Well, again,
that's going to help.
Again, I understand how you're. I just want to make sure that I make it clear that it's not we're waiting for studies. We're waiting for more information. And there's studies that are coming. Again, Quebec just came up with one. Nova Scotia is coming up with one the next several months as well. Obviously, Environment Canada and the EPA are very credible, large organizations. So we're very interested in those studies.
We're interested in the studies. As an LA in Kent, what was your first reaction of the first arrest that happened in your county?
Well, if I can backtrack, if you don't mind, a little bit. When the first kind of protests were starting up, I visited the protesters, and just to tell you a bit of a story, it was on social media that I was going to visit the protesters, and all of a sudden a bunch of people were calling our offices and saying, well, don't go there, it's dangerous, and don't go. This is the first protest, just to clarify the timeline. When I ended up going, obviously I had my back up a little bit because I was saying, wow, we're getting so many calls about
Wasn't that a Sunday morning or Saturday morning?
I can't.
You were there once, right?
Oh, I was there a couple times. But the first time I was there, because you may be talking about the second set of protests, if you will. So let me just start with the first one. And when I went, it was these nice ladies, some men. They're playing guitars. They're singing.
Pretty beautiful natives, too.
Well,
Nice. Very nice.
They're people that were very calm, very paisible, like we would say in French. So I was a bit surprised that I got so much
negative.
So much negative before going. So I did visit them the first time. I will say, however, that things did escalate a bit. Then some things started to really transpire. I went to go visit as well. I can say that the scene was a bit different. Definitely escalated a bit. Now, what happened in that interim period, and I'd like to tell you how many weeks it was, but I can't really remember offhand. But from when the first time I went, when it was very calm and people were singing songs and I mean
bonfires and everything,
grandmothers, I mean it was very calm. But then things did seem to be escalating, and I don't know what happened. There obviously something that happened in that time span. So I did visit a few times. I also went maybe the day in which there was more the large arrests and obviously there was some damage to cars, etc., etc. I visited that day as well. I couldn't really,
you were there a week before that.
Yeah, and I couldn't really get to the scene. The cops wouldn't let us, but obviously we were very concerned about the situation.
I always said Brian Gallant. I told that to many people, and I'll tell you right here. I said Brian Gallant wants to be premier, but when the arrest started, he was a local MLA. He never said much.
Well, actually,
what did you say to people that says that what's their opinion on that?
Yeah, well, a few things. I mean, like we just discussed, I visited the protest a few times. As you can imagine, I met a lot of the people that had concerns. They would come to my office, and I've met them a lot of times in the Rexton, in our office in Rexton. As well, I've gone to forums that they've had. I've assisted to 2 or 3 off the top of my head in which they were talking about shale gas and fracking. So I definitely tried to be as much as possible there for the people that had questions and concerns. But I will say that when the protest escalated to the point that it did that day, that we certainly denounced anything that was going up against the court order and anything that would be not respecting the rule of law. So we did issue a statement that day. So to say we didn't say anything isn't really accurate.
Statement and being in the crowd, be inside with the people. You know, like people are not interested in papers. They want to see, they want to see the Elizabeth Weir style. You know what I mean? Which I don't praise her, but anyway, after she sold out. But anyway, never mind that. You know what I mean?
Well, I think our democracy has many elements to it, and there's a lot of things that can play a role. I think that protests have a role. They have to be peaceful. They have to respect the rule of law. And the minute that the protests in Rexton didn't, that's when we denounced them. I also think that the politicians have a role to play. Citizens have a role to play. The written word has a huge impact and can have a huge impact on where we go as a society and as a province. I also think that bloggers can play a role. So I mean, we're in an era where there's a lot of things, a lot of information, a lot of opinions that are being gathered and shared and discussed. So I think that's good. So I definitely tried to do the best I could. We've raised shale gas and fracking numerous times in the legislature. I visited the protesters. I would meet with them. I've participated in the town halls that they had. I did many things that I think that would obviously contribute to the dialogue that we were having as a province.
What will happen? You're sitting down, the Premier's chair. I'm the bureaucrat. I show up, shake your hand, congratulations, Premier. And just like Jean Chrétien, we will eliminate the GST. Once they've seen the numbers, whoa, can't eliminate the GST. Once they show you the economy, the way that we're in dire strain in this province, would you change your mind on shale gas? Oh no, we need the money at any cost.
Well, no. One of the things that you have to do as a politician and as anybody that wants to be a leader of any sort is you have to be as informed as possible before you say something and before you take positions, and that's how we're going to make promises that we can keep. Is making sure that we fully understand the files, fully understand the situation. I'm very well aware of the state of our economy. I'm very well aware of the lack of job and opportunity here in the province, and that's why it's our priority. But I'm also very aware of shale gas and fracking. what are some of the benefits that could come from it, but more importantly, what are some of the risks to our environment and to our health. One of the things that I think is unfortunate in this dialogue is we have one side that will continuously talk about revenues, and then the other side that will continuously talk about the risks. They're both contributing to dialogue, that's great, but at one point you have to start talking about all of these combined. So yes, you could potentially have some increase in revenues, but does that come at a cost? Does it come at a real economic cost? What does it do in terms of the externalities that could come from moving forward with it, and also the social costs? And in the long run, will that cost us more in healthcare, and cost us more in social development, and cost us more in other ways?
How important is water to you?
Oh, it's very important. Of course, it's very important. You're talking to a guy from Shale Gas who had a well. I lived with a well that wasn't working for about a year or two. And I know what that can do and how devastating that can be. So it's very, very important, and we have to make sure that we protect our water. We have to make sure we protect our environment. We protect our health. Yes, we want job creation. Yes, we want the economy to grow, but we have to do it in a sustainable manner.
A native told me you could drink water, but you can't drink money.
Well, this is true, and I think it's a way for us to put in perspective some of the things that are important to us as a society, and to make sure that we don't take those things for granted.
David Howard, I told him that in the video, is one of the most honest politicians I ever met. But why is he so pig-headed on this issue?
Well, I don't know if I would agree with the terminology.
It's a blog.
And yeah, I don't know.
It's a blog.
Certainly don't want to comment on that per se, but I think one of the things that's unfortunate is that the David Alward government has not been upfront and has not consulted and has not got the social license, and really has lost the trust of New Brunswickers. They made so many promises to get elected, and then they broke so many of them. And then you ask New Brunswickers to trust you on a file that's so important like this one, and you ask them to trust you that you're going to protect their water and their environment, and that you're going to actually create jobs and have the best economic benefits possible, and people just don't believe the government anymore. And that's unfortunate, because we need people to trust our elected officials, to believe in government, to believe in politics, because it is a vehicle for change and to make a difference.
Why should we trust you?
Well, I can only continuously make the case. I can tell people that I'm in it for the right reasons. I want to make a difference. I'm going to make promises that I can keep. I don't want to go in there and say, oh well, things are worse. Everybody's heard that and they're tired of that. They don't want people to go in and say, well, we made that promise, but we can't do it anymore. It's not responsible. I'm going to keep my platform and ideas very reasonable, very fiscally feasible. And I think that if people will trust me, that they'll see that I'm going to work every day to ensure that we grow the economy and create jobs, and that I keep my word and that I keep their trust.
What do you tell people that a lot of people think this is a native issue, not a New Brunswicker, no ordinary New Brunswicker issue? What do you say about that?
It's even larger than that. I mean, this is a contentious issue that's happening across the globe. It's certainly happening across North America. It's happening across the country. And it's happening across the province. There are people that, from all stripes and backgrounds, that have concerns, that have legitimate questions that haven't been answered yet. So I think that there are a lot of factors that go into this, there's no doubt. And of course, First Nations is a part of the conversation, because they're obviously, in our case and in others across the country as well, they're very much impacted by what would happen with shale gas and fracking. So there are a lot of factors, but we have to make sure that we put this with the perspective it deserves. This is a conversation about the future of our environment, the future of our health, the future of our water, the future of our economy, the future of job creation as well.
I asked the Premier this. Have you already watched The Simpsons?
So you're asking me now? Yes, I have.
Yeah, okay. He said no, so I said it's a damn shame. Mr. Burns is just like the Irvings. But anyway, never mind that. But remember the episode, The Monorail?
Yes, I do.
You're a good boy, okay.
The monorail.
The monorail. Monorail. Yeah. So everybody this guy just show up and then con the...
Homer misses his cue at the end.
Exactly, right? That it was a fraud, and they spent about $500,000 or whatever, and it was no good. Is these commercials bring them home? Is that what we're going to see next? The next commercial? Have families and kids hugging, crying, and say, welcome home, with a shale gas well behind them? Are we going to see... Does he think he could do like the monorail? Like have New Brunswick or shale gas, and go inside the boot and vote yes?
I'm really not sure what they're planning. I can tell you that I was very, very discouraged with the last ad, and even the ad before it. I mean, the Alberta government has taken taxpayers' money from the government, and bought an ad to tell people we turned the corner, featuring the Premier, which I think was a waste of taxpayers' money, clearly. The last ad that they came out with telling everyone that people are leaving New Brunswick was also a huge waste of money. I mean, everybody knows that. Everybody realizes that the Alberta government hasn't created enough jobs.
But are we going to get a new commercial? You think so?
Well, I mean, look, your analysis, you follow this all the time, Charles. Maybe that's their plan. It would be unfortunate that they would try to bring our morale down and then try to bring it back up with their one narrative and idea that they have for the next election.
A lot of people, as you've seen, when you were in front, remember that time when you got out from the front step of the ledge and you talked to this guy? I had just happened during the protest, anti-shale protest.
Okay, yes.
And then you turn around and then you shook hands with a woman, and this woman said, "Shame on you," and then condemn all the Liberals MLAs, not you. It's you, the people that started this. How do you? Now, where was I getting into that one? How do you turn around and really, truly distance yourself and say, like, oh, this woman is an ordinary person. She was just quiet. And, oh, this is what I want to say. Should the government put this to a referendum?
Well, so a few things there I do want to comment on. The day of the protest, I mean, it was unfortunate. One of the things about our democracy and about the way that our elections and our political system works is that we don't all agree. I mean, it was a bit unfortunate that we talked with someone and we don't agree, and that's fine. But for the person to keep kind of hammering as if that if I don't agree with exactly what they're saying that I'm somehow a bad person, I think that's a bit unfortunate. That's not the type of conversation we need. We need to be able to admit that we have differences. And the woman, just so you know too, I mean, I don't know if you taped it, which you probably did. She said that she tried to meet with me at my office and never did it, which...
No, but she was a quiet type.
But when somebody says that, and I've literally met anybody and everybody that's ever come to my office, including people that would repeatedly come to my office week after week to talk about the same subject and the same thing, I'm not sure if she was going to the right place, because there's nobody that's ever been refused. So I was a bit confused as to why this woman said she tried to meet with me and wasn't able to. So
I think she was just angry, frustrated.
Sure.
I didn't know her. I talked to her afterward, and she was shocked when it was on YouTube. What I'm saying is that some people...
As most people are when you meet them, Charles.
I know. But then she's not the type to speak up. Her husband was shocked. What I'm saying is there's some people that's very angry about this issue. They don't trust the Liberals, and they don't trust the Conservative. Shouldn't they put this vote to a referendum?
Well, there's a few issues with
during
that.
The election. Just say, hey, yes, shale gas or no.
There's a few things with referendums that we have to be careful. It can be a tool that we use for sure, but I think we have to be very careful, because the wording of a referendum, the build up to a referendum can be a scary thing. And
the
Charles,
commercials.
Well, exactly. You could have companies that come in. You could have action groups that come in that have more money than others.
Just like the BLTs.
And they make a big campaign and try to persuade people to take a certain position. So that's a bit worrisome. And if you remember, I mean, this is with a very clear discussion we had as a nation when Quebec was going into the referendum. The question that they had was so convoluted that people didn't really, when you really asked them what they just voted for, they weren't really sure. So you have to also be careful with the wording that's used, the way that they lead up to that.
So you don't agree there should
be?
I
find that it's a bit concerning, especially on this type of file.
Because what I'm concerned of, what's going to happen here is some people, other counties like Madawaska and the western part of the province, shale gas never been there, and they said, well, it's not in my backyard, so why should I care? Yes, we need the money for the economy, and I'm sure I'll vote for the PCE because they're going to move ahead. People don't understand that once there's a shale gas going, it's just going to spread all across this province, but people don't understand that.
Well, I mean, you're right to say that if shale gas development continues to move forward and they continue to frack, that it could definitely go into other communities. I'd like to think that New Brunswickers don't think that way, however. I do think that they care about the whole province, they care about their neighbors, they care about other communities, they care about their friends and family members that live in other communities as well. So I do believe if you asked around, there are a lot of people that would have the same concerns even if shale gas isn't in their backyard. They have the same legitimate questions that they want to ask. So I do think New Brunswickers are kind of beyond that regional division, and I think that they are looking out for their friends,
like Bill Fraser,
members.
Good guy.
Good guy. Yeah.
No, very nice guy, very super guy. And he said he never had a complaint in his writing about shale gas until one morning he had 8 or 10 phone calls. And next thing you know, these gadgets were in his writing. That's why. So people are just concerned when it's in their writing.
In fairness, maybe they just didn't think about it much, and all of a sudden when they saw something physical and tangible, it started to get their mind spinning on it. I mean, I'm very well aware as a politician and someone who aspires to be premier that people don't think about this on a day-to-day basis. I mean, they have their lives, they're trying to pay their bills, they're going to work, they're trying to get their kids to school. I mean, I recognize that, and the larger questions sometimes take a back seat, and rightfully so, because people are trying to make ends meet and go on with their lives. But sometimes if something's put in your face, there's no doubt that they would start to think about it and ponder it a bit more.
4 minutes.
Oh, that goes by fast.
Oh yeah. What do you think is going to be worse if you happen to be premier? It's going to fly real fast. Because then I'll ask
time has been flying fast now. I can only imagine.
Yeah. What's going to happen this summer for shale gas? You got a prediction?
Oh, I don't know. It's tough to know exactly, and it's hard to make predictions. I mean, I think
you're going to be busy going all around.
Absolutely. Look, I have no doubt that shale gas and fracking is going to be a continuous conversation that we have as a province. I mean, frankly, it's a continuous conversation that is happening across the country and the globe. So I have no doubt that we're going to continue to debate and discuss this as a province, and I think that's healthy as long as we have the right the right way of going about it.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I mean, one of the things that I think is a bit unfortunate is that the premier, the current premier and his government is pushing this so hard and pushing this in people's faces that they're trying to force people to make a decision right now. When I think New Brunswickers are acting quite reasonably. They all have legitimate concerns that they want answered before that they would ever say yes.
Did you say, I didn't get it, did you say when would you press the pause button after you elected premier?
Well, I think I made the position clear, so that's our
more
position.
studies.
That's our position. Well, again, I think that what I'm saying is that there's a need for more information. People have legitimate questions that haven't been answered, and it's with more information.
Is that like sitting on the fence? No.
No, I think it's a lot of the sentiment that New Brunswickers have as well, and I've had this position for a long time. And there's no surprise, and it's quite funny because people are starting to pick up on the studies. I actually said this, and I could send it to you if you want. I said this in the papers, I think in 2011, if not early 2012. I made it very clear that I thought we needed more information and that there were studies coming, and I talked about the 2 studies that everybody keeps talking about. I spoke about that about 2 years ago. So my position hasn't changed, and it won't change. We want more information, and we want to make sure that we consider all risks and we fully understand all risks, and I don't think we're there yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.